As the last ray of sun dissolved into the horizon, a veil of darkness enveloped the dense woods. I set up my tent with trembling hands, the echo of my pounding heart a stark reminder of my solitude. Every rustle of leaves, every whistle of the wind sent shivers down my spine. It was supposed to be an adventurous retreat, a solo camping expedition in the notorious Blackwood Forest, but there I was, second-guessing my sanity. The rain began to fall in sinister harmony with the howls that haunted the silent night. I crawled inside my tent, my sanctuary, yet the feeling of an ominous presence lingered, alone but not alone. The rain hit the tent in a rhythm, almost like morbid footsteps stalking the perimeters of my temporary haven. Draped in the eerie silence, memories of the local tales about the forest stirred in my mind, of wayfarers gone missing, of ghostly whispers, of the dark entities believed to lurk within these woods. They said the forest was alive, a sinister entity preying on lone souls. But those were just stories, right? The whispers began at midnight, their sinister symphony drowned by the pelting rain. But I heard them, a haunting melody weaved into the wind, crawling into my tent, whispering secrets of a world beyond. My torch flickered, casting grotesque shadows that danced and lurked. Panic surged, reason succumbed to primal fear. The torrential rain outside, the chilling whispers, the insidious darkness, all caging me in an unending nightmare. Hours turned into an eternity. Then, amidst the tumultuous rain, the ghastly serenade of whispers quietened, and a voice, clear yet ethereal, called my name. Jake! The voice was that of a little girl, lost and petrified. She spoke of a world between the veils, where shadows walked and whispered. I knew then the tales were not fables. They were dire warnings. Blackwood Forest wasn't just a forest. It was a cryptic entity, its dark soul as real as the ominous chills that clambered up my spine. In the tempestuous darkness, against reason's stern warnings, I stepped out of the tent. The rain lashed, painting the eerie night with foreboding strokes. I followed the voice, an ethereal whisper leading me into the heart of the ominous woods. A ghostly figure of a girl, no more than 10, stood amidst the darkness, her eyes hollow, her soul trapped in perpetual torment. She spoke of an ancient curse, of souls ensnared, of her eternal damnation to roam the haunted woods. The forest is hungry, Jake, her voice trembled. Every drop of rain is a sinister tear, a curse that entwines the living with the damned. You're part of this now, another soul, another whisper. In the torrential darkness, the true horror of the Blackwood Forest unveiled. The rain was a curse, every drop weaving the tragic tales of the souls ensnared. I was not alone. The woods teemed with ghostly silhouettes, their whispers painting the ghastly narrative of their cursed existence. Escape was futile. Every step deeper into the woods was a descent into a world where reality and nightmares entwined. The whispers grew louder, a symphony of horror, each tale more tragic than the last. As dawn threatened the reign of the night, the sinister rain ceased, yet the haunting whisper endured. I was one of them now, my soul ensnared, my existence condemned to echo the terrifying tales of a creepy rainy night that transformed an adventurous soul into a whispering shadow of the notorious Blackwood Forest. The forest, as I came to realize, was an enigmatic entity, forever cursed. Every tree, every leaf, every drop of sinister rain was a soul entrapped, a voice echoing the unspeakable horrors of a creepy rainy night. I am a part of it now. Another voice, another tale, forever echoing the haunting serenade of a creepy rainy night camping horror story. The rain started just as the sun disappeared, blanketing the woods in a dark, humid embrace. I'd always loved camping. The smell of the pine trees, the sound of the night creatures, and the thrill of being alone in the wild. But this trip felt different. I had set up camp deep in the woods, away from any trails or other campers. I wanted to truly experience the wilderness, alone and untouched. My fire crackled as the rain began to fall, each drop creating a small hiss as it hit the flames. Pulling my coat tighter around me, I decided to turn in for the night. I lay in my tent, the rain creating a constant white noise as it tapped against the canvas. But as I lay there, drifting into sleep, I heard something. It was faint, almost drowned out by the rain, but unmistakable. A soft, rhythmic chanting. Confused, I sat up, pressing my ear against the side of the tent to better hear. The sound seemed to be coming from deeper in the forest, and although I couldn't make out the words, the tone was eerie, sending chills down my spine. A logical part of my brain argued that it was just other campers, maybe a group doing some kind of ritual, but I hadn't seen anyone for miles, and something about that chanting felt asterisk off asterisk. I decided to investigate. Grabbing my flashlight and putting on my raincoat, I stepped out into the downpour. The woods were thick, and the rain made it hard to see, but I followed the chanting, which seemed to grow louder with every step. After what felt like hours, I stumbled upon a clearing. There, standing in a circle, were hooded figures. Each held a candle, their faces obscured by the shadows. In the center of the circle was a large stone altar, and lying atop it, a person. Their face was covered with a cloth, but from their size I assumed it was a man. Panic rose in my throat. I wanted to run, scream, anything, but my body refused to move. The chanting grew louder and more urgent, and the figures began to sway in rhythm. Suddenly, the figure at the head of the altar raised a knife, its blade glinting menacingly in the dim light. My heart raced, and just as the blade was about to fall, a deafening scream rang out. It was me. The hooded figures turned in unison, their gazes locking onto mine. Dropping the knife, the lead figure began to move towards me, the others following suit. I finally found my legs and ran, not looking back. The woods became a blur as I crashed through the underbrush, branches and thorns tearing at my skin. The chanting continued, echoing in my ears, and the feeling of being pursued was relentless. I don't know how long I ran, but eventually, I saw the glow of my campfire ahead. Bursting into the clearing, I made a beeline for my tent, diving inside and zipping it shut. I knew it was a flimsy barrier, but it was all I had. The chanting grew closer and louder until it was deafening. I could hear the hooded figures moving outside my tent, their whispers and muffled footsteps surrounding me. I clutched my flashlight like a lifeline, waiting for them to make their move. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the chanting stopped. The silence was even more terrifying. The only sound was the steady drum of the rain on the canvas. I waited, holding my breath, listening for any sign of them. Hours seemed to pass, but eventually the first rays of dawn began to pierce the darkness. With the light came courage, and I slowly unzipped my tent, peering out. They were gone. The clearing was empty, save for my campsite and the remnants of my fire. The rain had stopped, and the woods were quiet, as if the previous night's horrors had been a dream. But as I packed up my things, preparing to leave this nightmare behind, I found something that sent shivers down my spine. On the ground, just outside my tent, was the knife. Its blade was stained a dark red, and engraved on its handle were symbols that matched the chanting I had heard. I didn't need any more convincing. Leaving my gear behind, I ran until I reached my car and drove away, vowing never to return. To this day, I don't know who those hooded figures were or what they were doing in the woods that night. All I know is that I was lucky to escape with my life, and I'll never forget the sounds of that eerie chanting on that creepy rainy night. I hunched over the flickering flames, the crackle and pop of the wet wood barely audible over the relentless drumming of rain on my tent. The weather had taken a turn for the worse, plunging my solitary camping expedition into a mélanger of chilling winds and eerie sounds that seemed to echo with the sinister symphony of a haunted melody. Earlier in the evening, the forest was alive with the serene symphony of nature, the chirping of crickets and rustling leaves composing a lullaby that soothed my urban-weary soul. As an avid nature lover, the lure of the great outdoors was irresistible, promising an oasis of tranquility far removed from the cacophony of the city. Yet, as darkness descended and the rain began to pour, an unsettling quietude took residence around my isolated encampment. The forest, once an asylum of peace, now whispered ominous forebodings that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. Despite the unsettling change, the rational part of my mind chided my juvenile fears, attributing my discomfort to the stormy night and isolation. Clutching my rain-soaked book, I tried to lose myself in the fictional narrative, but the unsettling silence of the woods, punctuated by the occasional distant howl, was an inescapable presence. It was then that I first heard it, a whisper barely audible above the wind's melancholy song. I strained my ears, wondering if it was the trick of the wind or the rustling leaves. But there it was again, a hushed voice, faint yet unmistakable, chilled to the bone, not by the biting wind, but an unshakable dread. I grabbed my flashlight and ventured out into the tempestuous night. The darkness was almost palpable, the rain a torrential veil that obscured the moon's pallid glow. The voice grew louder, a mournful lament that seemed to emanate from the heart of the woods. Compelled by a mixture of terror and intrigue, I ventured deeper into the dark recesses of the forest. The ground, sodden and slippery, squelched beneath my boots. Each step forward intensified the ominous aura that gripped the woods. The rain, now a malevolent accomplice, bore witness to the unearthly chorus that filled the air. Suddenly, a lightning bolt illuminated the forest in an eerie incandescence. In that transient moment of spectral light, I saw them, figures cloaked in an ethereal pallor, their eyes devoid of life, yet hauntingly aware. They moved with ghostly grace, their voices weaving the haunting melody that echoed through the woods. Frozen in terror, the specter's eyes, void and pitiless, pierced through me. In that chilling instant, a silent communication passed between us, an unutterable knowledge that defied human comprehension. The specters vanished with the retreating lightning, plunging me back into the suffocating darkness. Yet their haunting presence, an ineradicable stain, remained, seared into my soul with indelible ink. In the tortured hours that followed, the forest unveiled its sinister secret, a gateway to a realm where the boundary between the living and the dead was a fragile veil, rent asunder on this forsaken night. Each raindrop that fell bore witness to the unearthly encounter, a chilling testament to the forest's enigmatic inhabitants. Abandoning my encampment, I stumbled through the woods, the specter's haunting refrain a malevolent lullaby that would forever echo in the haunted corridors of my mind. As dawn broke, and the first rays of sunlight pierced the night's oppressive gloom, I emerged from the woods. The rain, now a gentle whisper, washed away the terror of the night. Yet the specter's ghostly presence, an undying echo, lingers still, forever imprinted in the haunted annals of that creepy, rainy night. When I returned to civilization, the scorn of incredulity was a harrowing companion. Friends, family, loved ones, they all looked at me with that mix of pity and skepticism reserved for the deranged or the overly imaginative. Yet every drop of rain that falls is a haunting reminder of that creepy, rainy night. A night when the boundaries of reality were irrevocably breached, unveiling an underworld of spectral souls forever etched in the terrifying silence of the woods. I've not dared return to those woods. Every raindrop that patters against my window is a chilling reminder of those ghostly specters, of eyes void yet seeing, voices silent yet echoing with the mournful refrain of the damned. In the sanctuary of the city's blinding lights and incessant noise, I find a transient solace. Yet in my tortured slumber, the forest's ominous whispers pierce the veil of sleep, drawing me back into its enigmatic embrace, where the living and the dead, reality and nightmare converge in the haunted echoes of that creepy, rainy night.